Battle of Ontario heats up over the weekend as Marc-Andre Fleury is honored for some historic milestones. Hey everyone, welcome into another edition of Off the Post. Rob Wong, joined alongside by Toronto Sun sports columnist Steve Simmons and Postmedia hockey columnist Bruce Garrioch. And guys, all the talk of the hockey world this past weekend was about the ending of the Maple Leaf Senators game that saw Sens forward Ridley Greig fire a slap shot for an empty net goal. He was then promptly met with a cross check to the head from Morgan Rielly, who, as of this recording, was offered an in-person hearing on Tuesday, allowing for the possibility of a 5 or more game suspension. Perfect that we have someone that covers the Sens and someone that covers the Leafs for this video. So, Bruce, we'll start with you. Was what Greig did breaking the quote-unquote code, and was Rielly's response and upcoming suspension justified?
Well, look, he didn't kill anybody. He just took a slap shot into an empty net. Look, should Ridley Greig have done it? No, he shouldn't. He shouldn't have done it. But he stuck the nail in the coffin, and I think he got caught up in the moment, Steve. I think he looked at this situation. They're playing their arch rivals. It's that they can clinch the season series with a victory here at home. There are at least 70% of the fans in that building who are Leaf fans. They had to take the crowd out of it early. I mean, I just think that you've got a kid who got caught up in the moment, and so he took a slap shot. He'd been hit by McCabe earlier. Morgan Rielly's response was over the top. There's no question about that, Steve. But I don't think what Ridley Greig did was, classless. Mind you, I've had some Maple Leaf fans tell me to go bleep myself for that take, Steve. Which I would call classless, by the way.
They could make a movie about this and call it Dumb and Dumber. What Greig did was stupid. You don't do it. You don't do it. Whatever code and not code and fake codes and all the rest of it, you don't do it. All you're doing by that is stirring the pot. And what Rielly did, completely out of character, you certainly don't do. And it's going to cost him a pile because he's going to get a large suspension. And that in itself, is as dumb as what either thing transpired prior to any of this. The very fact that the NHL needs a in-person meeting with one of the most passive, gentle, least penalized, a player without any history at all, to come in and say, what? I did something stupid in the heat of the moment. What else can he say? He can't say anything else. What he should have done if he was smart was punched him. You don't give the stick to the head. That's what he's in trouble for. Punch him. And then everybody is all in there, and the very fact that Rielly, I don't think Morgan Rielly's ever punched anyone, and the fact that he's punching someone in this circumstance, that speaks to what happened here. It's shocking to me that it's him, of all the Leafs. He would be the last guy that I would ever suspect would be the jump to the conclusion kind of guy, and I got to be in there for my teammates. It's not really who he is. It's not who he's ever been. And that's what makes, I think, all of this rather ludicrous. I mean, we're it's getting all kinds of social media conversation, and, one side says one thing and one side says another thing, and it's all nonsense because we know both sides are wrong here. And both sides acted inappropriately. But there's degree of inappropriate. And Morgan Rielly crossed the degree of inappropriate, and why that couldn't be an easy 1 or 2 game suspension. And what are they going to talk? What are they going to ask him, Bruce? What are they going to ask him in his hearing?
Well,
what could they possibly get an answer for?
I think the issue he's facing is they've set the precedent for 6 game suspensions with Jason Spezza. We saw it earlier this year when David Perron gave a stick to the head and got 6 games to an unsuspecting Artem Zub during a bit of a melee in Detroit after Matthew Joseph hit Dylan Larkin. You're right. I don't know why they're having an in-person hearing. I don't know why Rielly is going to New York. Just do it by Zoom. You're not I guess you can go there and plead your case, but
The Department of Safety, by its name, is there to protect its players and protect its players from predators and from the kind of guys that will injure players and that have injured players. To have a hearing to protect yourself from Morgan Rielly is almost laughable. And I say that with all due respect and great regard for Morgan Rielly. This shouldn't be a hearing. This shouldn't be a long suspension. And now we know it will be. And this is just another example of the Department of Player Safety not really acting on its own title, because they're not protecting anyone here by suspending Morgan Rielly for more than a minute.
yeah, and Ridley Greig is the son of a former Leaf. How dare he? Marc Greig played 13 games for them.
Yes. And they don't even know how to spell his name. There's a whole other issue with that.
Yeah, definitely an interesting time for the Battle of Ontario, and it's too bad that we won't see these teams face off again until next season. Meantime, Minnesota Wild goalie Marc-Andre Fleury was honored for his 1,000th career game and 552nd win on Friday with his former team, the Pittsburgh Penguins, in town. Fleury would get career number win 553 that night. So, Steve, you've got a guy who's got the second most regular season wins, the fourth most games played for goalies, and some cup rings to boot. Where does he rank among this generation's greatest goaltenders?
Well, first, start with this generation. In the generation we're talking about, to me, the greatest goalie of this generation is Andrei Vasilevsky of the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I think he stands alone. And after that, you look around. This isn't a great goalie generation. We're not talking about Roy and Brodeur and Hasek and Belfour all at the same time. There isn't any of that right now. You also put another factor in there. Every game now has a win or a loss. There are no ties. So any goalie's wins are going to be greater now than anybody who played in other eras. So the stats comparison doesn't really work. Marc-Andre Fleury, a very good NHL goalie. But let's be honest, he wasn't in goal for either of the two Pittsburgh Stanley Cup wins of the most recent ones. He was the backup to Matt Murray. So he has been a good NHL goalie, and he's going to, maybe he's a Hall of Famer, and I'm not even sure he is, to be honest. But I don't put him anywhere near, for people who've been covering hockey as long as Bruce and I have, I don't put him anywhere near Lundqvist or Luongo or go back to the Roy, Brodeur, Belfour, Hasek time, which is the greatest goaltending era ever. So to me, if you're talking where does he rank, top 15 maybe all time, maybe to 20. I'd have to sit down and break it down name by name by name, but I don't see him anywhere near the top 10.
It's kind of funny, Steve, because I was thinking about this morning when I was looking at his numbers, and I'm thinking, well, is he the kind of guy, if you had to win one game to win a Stanley Cup or win a gold medal for Canada, that you would turn to and think of? I don't think he's put himself in that conversation. He's dressed for 1,000 games. I mean, it's incredible. You think of his longevity, but I think one of the things that you can't take away from Marc-Andre Fleury, and that we've seen in the last bit here, is he must be a great teammate. He must just be a fantastic teammate because of the accolades he's gotten. I mean, to me, he just seems like a wonderful, very genuine guy, and not enough can be said for the people who are ambassadors for the game. And I think he has been a great ambassador for the game, who's also been a very good goaltender.
And to some people, maybe the best teammate they've ever had, which is something you can never underrate. I remember when Joe Nieuwendyk was going in the Hall of Fame, and I was doing a story on Joe Nieuwendyk at the time, and every single person I talked to told me that Joe Nieuwendyk was the best teammate they ever had. And I think you get the same kind of sense from Marc-Andre Fleury. You didn't always get that from Patrick Roy. You didn't always get that certainly from Dominic Hasek. To me, those are two of the 3 or 4 best goalies to ever play. But you don't have to be a great guy. Terry Sawchuk wasn't a great guy. You have to be a great guy to be a great goalie. You just have to stop the puck. Marc-Andre Fleury was a great guy who stopped the puck and was beloved by every team he was on, whether he was hot or not, or whether he was winning or losing or whatever it is. I mean, to lose your starting spot twice on a very good Pittsburgh team and have them win the Stanley Cup with another guy, and then for the team to let you go in expansion, basically, that says something too. But as you say, Bruce, maybe being a better person in the long run, maybe that means more than being a better goaltender.
Yeah, it's been a great career for Marc-Andre Fleury, and it continues to go on here with the Minnesota Wild. We'll see how many more wins and games he can rack up before it's all said and done. As always, leave your thoughts in the comments section below. For Steve Simmons and Bruce Garrioch, I'm Rob Wong. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next time on another edition of Off the Post.